Hello and welcome, my fellow denizens of YouTube. Those of you who like the true scary story genre would no doubt appreciate the value of different sort of tales, not just the same reposts that the YouTube scene seems to be chock full of nowadays. Which is why I have been viciously probing the deep and cavernous bowels of Nichan anonymous message board forums to bring you the most creepy, unsettling, and downright strange tales tonight for your amusement. Anyway, if at any point the stories of tonight would seem too much for you, just always remember that anything I say on this video is little more than conjecture and a bunch of lies stitched together to make up a story, even though at the same time I'm most feverishly insisting that everything you hear on this broadcast is true. Now with that said, ladies and gentlemen, gather round as we kick this video off with our first story of tonight. A young man whose financial situation is so comfy that he spends most of his time exploring the wilderness and the mountains of his native Japan, until he one time stumbles upon the place where this man witnessed more than he bargained for. This first story is called What I Have Found While Exploring Deep in the Mountains of Hayakawa. This incident happened to me somewhere in the mountains near Hayakawa. It happened around 10 years ago, when I was still in my early 20s, not studying at university, but working at my parents' company. Basically, I was a glorified accountant, counting money that did not belong to me. It was your typical soul-crushing, boring office job. But because I got to this position through nepotism, and there were only so much money to count and forms to fill, I only worked 3 days a week, but it was registered as if I'm working 5 days a week full time. I'm telling you guys, nepotism is the way to go when searching for a job, especially in this economy. You should try it sometime. Anyway, having a considerable salary and abundance of free time, and no need to bother with the university studies, I bought myself a Yamaha Vino moped, a helmet, and a backpack, which I promptly filled with drinks and snacks, and used it to drive around the nearby mountain roads to explore the local nature and some of the abandoned buildings. I also took my photo camera with me to document my findings, which I would later post it on my blog and on Nichan anonymous message board, as you are well aware, since this is where I am posting right now. Over time, I managed to gather quite the fan base who were more than mildly interested and amused with my shenanigans. Anyway, this incident happened one evening when I was on one such outing, driving my trusty Yamaha Vino moped through the winding mountain roads somewhere around Hayakawa, Yamanashi Prefecture, nestled between green, tree-covered hills. There stood an abandoned inn. A rather sizable three-story building, I might add, presumably This was supposed to be a restaurant and hotel at some point. Most likely, it lost its customers during the burst of the Japanese economic bubble due to the unfavorable locale. I mean, let's face it, the place was obscure as hell, and it is situated in the middle of nowhere as far as I can see, surrounded by tall mountains filled with trees and deep valleys as far as the eye can see. What did they expect would happen? But I digress. Its dilapidated facade, once a haven for weary travelers, now loomed as a silent relic of forgotten times. Perfect place for my urban exploration, in the name of gathering some internet likes. Intrigued by the eerie tales that were frequently discussed on a random section of the Ni-chan anonymous message board, I ventured towards the decaying structure. The air grew heavy as I crossed the threshold, greeted by the creaking of floorboards and the musty scent of neglected wood. As I explored the dimly lit corridors and snapped some photos for my internet blog, each step seemed to cause more apprehensive thoughts to arise inside my head. Don't get me wrong, this wasn't my first rodeo exploring abandoned building. There are a gazillion of those in Japan, and there was certainly beauty to be found here in my opinion, in the structure decay, having nature reclaiming what man once built for his own amusement. Faded wallpaper peeled from the walls, revealing glimpses of a time when the inn thrived with laughter and warmth. The atmosphere, however, now told a different story, one of abandonment and solitude. In one particular room of this inn, I discovered a collection of weathered guest registers, their pages yellowed with age. Names and dates, like spectral imprints, chronicled the inn's decline. One entry caught my eye, a chilling account of a guest who claimed to have seen apparitions in the dead of night, promptly leaving the premises without even waiting for the morning to check out. Oh, so this place was not just isolated and unpopular, but also haunted. Great, I mumbled to myself while flipping the pages of the guest journal. Ignoring the uneasy feelings settling over me, I continued my exploration. The abandoned inn seemed to harbor a lingering energy, as if the very walls retained the echoes of bygone conversations and the laughter of forgotten guests. Truth be told, I wasn't particularly afraid of spirits. More concerning were the elements of thuggish variety. As I ventured deeper and deeper into the abandoned inn, I have reached the inn's once glorious grand dining hall. Dust-covered tables, shattered glass, garbage strewn all over, and of course the obligatory offensive graffiti on the walls bore witness to the passage of time. The table was still filled with dishes and plates, as if awaiting for guests, although the food was long since decayed away, and only some stains and dried stuff remained on the plates. The entire scene looked surreal, like from some sort of video game, like Silent Hill or something. As I continued to explore the dining hall some more, I started hearing some strange sounds. At first it was faint. I remember quickly stopping in place and listening intently. There seems to be a sound of someone crying. sobbing. A female voice most likely, but it was difficult to tell. Clearly the voice came from the corridor in front of me. I ducked back near the entrance to hide out of sight in case there are some dangerous delinquents in the room in front of me that I was about to stumble upon. Shit, 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 I cursed under my breath, about to run away as far as possible from this damned place. Why did I came to this dilapidated hellhole in the first place? I cursed and questioned myself. I was about to run away when I suddenly realized the sound wasn't that of a human. By that, I don't mean it was supernatural or ghostly or anything of that sort of nonsense, no. It had this sort of speaker quality. Clearly it was a recording. I was about to run away either way when the radio in the other room blared with static and the man's voice clearly shouted, "Haruto, you dumb bastard, you never should have come here." Kya! I screamed like a schoolgirl and ran as fast as I could from the building, jumped on my moped that was parked just outside and sped away from this accursed place. While I was driving through the empty mountain road, the scenery, the humming of my moped, together with the orange sky of the setting sun, gradually calmed my nerves. After driving a considerable distance from this less than palatable locale, but still surrounded by a beautiful scenery of the Japanese mountains, I stopped my moped, pulled out a soda can from my backpack, and opened it to have a drink. You have to keep your sugar levels up, especially in such stressful situations. While enjoying my soda drink, I continued to ponder what just happened. Clearly the place was abandoned. I was certain of that. No one in their right mind would live there. It was in the middle of the mountains, in the middle of nowhere also. Yet there was a magnetola inside that inn. Who put it there? More to the point, it was playing this creepy recording of crying and sobs on the loop. What's with the sudden mention of my name? Did some of my friends followed me and wanted to pull a prank on me? But no, that's impossible. I didn't tell any of them that I was coming here. Same as my co-workers. It was a small mountain road. It would have been easy to spot someone following me, I reasoned. Clearly, some delinquents must have been present before I have arrived here in order to place and to turn on the magnetola. But why? Did they waited all this time just to pull a prank on me? What if I or someone else never showed up? More horrifyingly, what if I had entered the next room? Would some kind of hooligan, possibly high on drugs, would have stabbed me with eyes bulging and crazed expression on his face? Surely that would have been the end of me. But how did they knew my name specifically? Or was the name on the recording purely coincidental? I wasn't sure which possibility scared me more. Either way, I decided not to go on urban explorations alone, or even with company anytime soon for that matter. And with that, I put on my helmet so as not to attract attention of the traffic police and drove my moped home. That story rattled me a bit. I personally find urban exploration a fun outdoorsy activity, even though inevitably you would end up breaking the law somewhat, purely because you are trespassing. And while I very much want to believe that ghosts exist, I also think that the living are much more dangerous. Or are they? This next story is called The Creepy Old Man I Encountered in the Shrine somewhere around Kyoto. My name is Nakazawa Ayumi. I'm 33 years old. Right now, I'm living in a small town deep within the mountains of Shizuoka. At the time of this story, however, I was residing in the old capital, Kyoto. This particular incident happened to me around 10 years ago, during one particularly breezy December afternoon. On Friday in particular, as I had the day off, I worked 4 days, 12-hour shifts, snoozing at the cash register of the local convenience, and then had 4 days off, rinse and repeat. Don't judge me. I remember during that particular winter day, the snow was especially heavy, so much so that it managed to knock out a few electricity poles, pulling some wires out, fiber optic cables of the internet in particular. They were supposedly fixing it, and the internet should have started working sometime during the late evening of that day. However, that still meant that I was exceedingly bored. The TV still worked curiously, but there was nothing good on, and I wasn't particularly keen on watching the sumo wrestling championship that was on NHK at the time. And so I went looking for some R&R, the only way I knew how, by looking for some interesting places in my hometown to visit. It was then I suddenly remembered how my friends told me about this peculiar temple that they insisted was haunted, and so I thought to myself, oh, what the hell, let's go visit. The snow-laden landscape of Nikko Temple lay silent beneath the winter's icy gaze. I found myself walking towards this particular temple, its majestic torii gates standing sentinel at the entrance. The hush of winter held the promise of mysteries beneath its frosty breath. As I traversed the snow-covered paths, the crunch of my footsteps echoed in the stillness. The temple, adorned with layers of snow, seemed frozen in time, a sanctuary untouched by the world beyond its gates. As I approached the courtyard, I noticed a solitary figure, a Shinto priest, wrapped in the heavy cloak. His eyes, like orbs of ancient wisdom, met mine as if he had been expecting my arrival. The priest said, "Winter is a season of reflection, young one. A time when the spirit of Nikko's sacred grounds reveal themselves most vividly." Intrigued, I asked, "What do you mean?" The priest answered, "The snow, like a veil, conceals the footprints of both the living and the dead. The spirits, drawn to the tranquility of winter, share their stories with those who are willing to listen. Come, I show you." The priest gestured me to follow him. Intrigued to unravel the mysteries, primarily because I had nothing better to do, I followed the priest through the snow-laden path. Only the trees stood as silent witnesses to the strangeness that was about to transpire within these hallowed grounds. "Have you encountered these spirits?" I asked. The priest nodded. I did. In the winter's embrace they reveal themselves." The shadows of those who once revered these grounds return, their presence felt in the subtle dance of falling snowflakes. As we approached the main hall, the priest motioned towards the Yashamun gate, its intricate carvings adorned with a delicate layer of frost. We passed through these gates and entered the main building of the temple. Then the priest told me, "Here the spirits gather. Listen closely, and you may hear their whispers." A profound stillness enveloped us as we stood inside the temple. The air seemed to shimmer with an ethereal energy as the temple bells echoed in the distance, their tones resonating with an otherworldly grace. The priest pulled out a box of matches and started to lit up numerous candles and some incense. Immediately, a pungent, sweet smell of incense filled the room, and strangely, this alone put my mind at ease somewhat. Still, this whole situation did felt off somewhat. I knew for a fact that this temple was, if not abandoned, then rarely visited for sure. Its dilapidated state was an obvious proof of that. Still, I saw the priest standing in front of the altar, clasping his hands together for the prayer, and I did so as well. I didn't pray for anything, nor do I consider myself a believer in such nonsense, truth be told. But I did find the activity to be peaceful and relaxing for the mind, sort of like a meditation practice. After a considerable amount of time has passed, longer than 15 minutes, but shorter than an hour, my tranquil trance-like state was interrupted by the voice of the old man standing beside me. "Do you hear that?" "Hear what?" I asked. The priest answered with his eyes still closed, tilting his head to the ceiling. "The spirits of this temple, suspended in the winter's embrace, weave tales of the bygone eras. They speak in the language of none other but the mystic Tengu themselves." Ooh. I had no idea of what this old man was on about. The priest probably understood that as well, since he proceeded further with his ramblings while smiling. The guardians of Tooshogu reveal themselves to those who seek their essence of winter's magic. After this, the priest clasped his hands together, with what was either a cloud of dust or ash suddenly appeared around them. Then the priest continued his spiel. "The winter spirits have shared their tales. Carry their whispers with you, for the frozen grounds of Nikko harbor stories that transcend the seasons." "That's it?" "Well, this was a waste of time." I rolled my eyes. "What do you mean?" the priest inquired. He didn't seem even a bit insulted by my obviously rude and less than polite remarks towards him and his religion. I came here expecting to witness some sort of proof of supernatural, ghosts or any kind of phenomena. My friends were yapping non-stop about how they have their sixth sense or something every time we go drink on weekends in our local izakaya. Thus, I wanted to see it for myself, what all the fuss was about, and I figured perhaps this was the place to do it. But I see it's just a bunch of make-believe, isn't it? The priest looked at me with a smile and warm understanding. "Take heart, young one. All is not lost. If nothing else, the night is still so young. He pointed to outside, where the dark white and blue color filled the area around the temple because of the dark blue winter sky and snow. Night? Isn't it supposed to be around 6:30 in the evening? I looked at my watch to confirm that my prediction of the time was accurate, and it was. The goddess Nico loves the winter, and while there is still snow outside... His voice trailed off. Before you leave for home, do please follow me outside. I still would like to show you something. The priest nodded politely and slowly started walking through the door. The warm orange candlelight contrasted the cool blues and whites as I followed him. I did felt a bit disappointed and more than trifle apprehensive, I shan't lie, about this excursion of mine. If nothing else, it's because it was rather cold outside, and no matter how warm I was dressed, my extremities still felt at least moderately cold. Still, I proceeded to follow this priest, whose white robes now looked more akin to a ghostly apparition, almost glowing in the snowy light. It was considerably darker now than before I entered the temple. During winter time, it gets dark fast. The priest walked to the nearby water pond at the side of the courtyard, a place where the visitors were supposed to. "I'm not going to toss any coin if that's what you're asking," I immediately said. Not because I'm rude or anything, but because my hands are cold already, and that would require for me to take off my gloves. And judging by the look of this place, I turned my head, taking a good long look at the entire temple building. To fix the ruined state of this temple would require more than what I have inside my pocket. Oh no, you can keep your coin, young one. I have no need for them. Quite the opposite, in fact. I do not wish for you to leave empty-handed. The priest gestured his hands, showing off his supposed generosity. Gaze into this pond for a moment, won't you? Not understanding what he means, but seeing no harm in humoring the priest one last time, I did as he instructed. "What am I supposed to see here?" I asked, as the wind suddenly picked up and a bunch of snowflakes were blown at me from the side. Brrr, it's getting really cold out here. Hey, aren't you feeling cold wearing that... The words became stuck inside my throat as I turned back. The priest, the old man, whoever was he was gone. He was standing in front of this pond just to the left of me. Yet now there was not a single trace of him. More so, the snow where he stood remained undisturbed, and a quick look at the courtyard showed me that the only footsteps that were seen in the snow were mine. Kya! I screamed like a schoolgirl while running away in fear, with my arms flailing around. Nearly got a heart attack as I fumbled my keys to get inside my hatchback and spun tires to quickly drive away from this accursed place while hyperventilating. I only started to calm down as I drove back into the more busy streets of the town, where other people were visible out and about. Of course, once I calmed down a bit, I immediately felt the need for some R&R to recuperate after experiencing my close brush with mortality and the supernatural, and thus I proceeded to drive to the local izakaya, which I knew would be working late into the night, and where I knew the bartender, who was a good friend of mine. As the alcohol and the warm-lit atmosphere of izakaya helped me to unwind, I proceeded to chat late into the night with the bartender and the fellow patrons, discussing both natural and supernatural, while downing God knows how many cups of hot sake, proceeding to curse the state of economy along with the current ruling party and their policies. Either way, after this particular incident, I decided not to visit any temples for the foreseeable future. Small Shinto shrines are fine, but no more temple visits for me, thank you very much. In fact, I think I'll drink to that. Well then, that was quite the story, wasn't it? I can't say I have encountered such ghostly figures myself, per se, but a few times while walking through the street, I did saw a person in front of me who walked to the corner of the building and then just straight up disappeared. I always wondered, maybe they got isekai'd or something. I always wanted to be isekai'd, truth be told. Then I could live in a happy anime world with bright colors and lead a peaceful, happy life, unlike my current dreadful existence. But that is neither here nor there, and it's a story for another time, because I have yet another creepy story for you, my fellow listeners. The person in the previous story encountered the ghostly apparition during their excursion in the great outdoors. The person in this story had strangeness come straight to his own doorstep. Thus, this next story is called The Strange Thing That Stood Outside My Door at Night. This happened during last November, while I lived and worked in Shinagawa City, Tokyo. It was a rainy Sunday, and the moon cast an eerie glow through the curtains of my living room. I found myself nestled on the couch, my faithful dog curled up beside me. The air was filled with tension as I indulged in a late-night samurai movie marathon or something of that nature on the channel NHK, each spine-chilling scene of the movie keeping me on the edge of my seat. As the clock ticked away, I felt the weight of drowsiness settle upon me. My eyelids grew heavy, and I began to drift into a dreamlike state. Suddenly, my peaceful night took an unexpected turn when my dog leaped off the couch, his gaze fixated on the dimly lit hallway leading to the door to my apartment. Concerned, I asked my canine companion, "What's wrong, buddy?" He refused to acknowledge me. His eyes locked onto the door. I sat up puzzled, only to witness a strange transformation in my usual calm and collected pet. His teeth were bared, and an unfamiliar growl rumbled from the deep within him, sending shivers down my spine. I didn't think dogs could even make such noises. Anxious now, I turned my attention to the door, trying to decipher the cause of my faithful dog's sudden trepidation and agitation. To my horror, a dark silhouette could be seen through the peephole, performing a strange monkey-like dance, as if contemplating whether to invade my space or not. The atmosphere in my apartment grew thick with an unexplained malevolence. Then he suddenly started jiggling my doorknob violently, in an attempt to regain some measure of control of the situation. I reached for a cell phone in my pocket. As I did, I couldn't help but utter a loud yelp. "Who the hell are you?" The tension escalated, and my dog's growls intensified as the mysterious figure continued to abuse my doorknob with its unnerving movements. Fear coursed through my veins as I struggled to steady my trembling hands. The shadows seemed to inch closer, then retreat, creating an unsettling rhythm that mirrored the beating of my anxious heart. I was caught in a surreal nightmare, uncertain of the entity's intentions. Just as I prepared myself mentally to call the police, I looked through the peephole one more time to make sure the man, or rather a thing in question, is still outside my door. When the shadowy figure dissipated into thin air right in front of my eyes, it vanished without a trace, leaving me in stunned silence. "What the hell?" I muttered. Was it a figment of my imagination, or had I truly encountered a supernatural presence? My dog, now calm, returned to the couch as if signaling the end of the strange episode. I grabbed the dough-kneading bat from the kitchen and, summoning great courage, I unlocked the door to inspect the damage from the outside. To my relief, there were no signs of break-in, and both the doorknob and the door lock remained unbroken. The surreal encounter had left me rattled, questioning the thin veil between the known and the unknown. As I came back to the couch in front of my TV, I reflected on that chilling episode, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I had crossed paths with a mysterious force beyond my comprehension. My dog and I shared a silent understanding, grateful for each other's presence in the face of the unexplained. That was my conclusion. I mean, this couldn't be a living being. It literally disappeared in front of me. Or was it a shared delusion? But can humans and animals share the same delusion? Clearly my dog sensed something outside the door. The memory of that encounter lingered, a haunting reminder that sometimes the boundary between the living and the supernatural is thinner than we dare to imagine. Those were the thoughts I tried to wash down with a can of shochu that I grabbed from my fridge, and some dill-flavored potato chips for a snack. I have to say, it is most creepy to find someone standing in front of your door without even doing anything, and only once the person realizes that you are aware of his presence, he starts jiggling and rattling your doorknob. Sounds like something out of a horror movie to me. Hopefully you never had such dreadful encounter in the dead of night. And that's the end of today's show. Hopefully you liked the stories. Press the like button and please comment if you do. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you.